Hi everybody and welcome to Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey. Today on the show we're going to be talking about all the different ways that you can potentially go live, different tools and technologies and different platforms, destinations, all of the things, but we are going out live to all the various places. So if you are watching live, let me know in the chat where you're watching from. It's great to have your company today. I'm feel like I should probably acknowledge the fact that we are going live a little bit later than usual. I wasn't sure if I was going to actually do a live today. I've had a really crazy week, but I thought I really miss hanging out with you guys, so I thought we'd come on and we will do the thing nonetheless. All right, so today we're going to talk about how we can go live. There are all kinds of different places we can go live. There are all kinds of tools that we can go live with. And I guess before we get there, I just want to say one of the great things about live is that you have the ability to talk to people in your comments. So hello to Business Growth Ready who says good day. Great to have your company. So a lot of people tend to do this weird thing where they're like, live is the best or pre-recorded video is the best. And I think they both have a role. And I don't think we should be too glib about, saying one is greater than the other. I think they're both incredibly useful. There might be some constraints over what you can physically do as an individual or as a member of a small team. So you do need to sort of think about where you want to put your attention. But I do really love the ability to go live and to talk to people in the comments. Again, today's show is a very last minute scheduled thing. So I don't know how many people are going to join us, but that's okay because we're going to have fun. We're going to do a bit of learning along the way as we go anyway. So first of all, I think, if you are doing this for a business purpose or if you've got a personal goal, it's a good idea to think about what that goal is and sort of work back from that goal. So it could be that you have products or services that you want to promote, and that could be something that's really quite useful to think about and maybe reverse engineer how the content is going to go versus that. And I'm just ever so slightly distracted by something in the background. I'll just fix that quickly. So, if you do have a goal, if maybe if you're talking to customers, you want to talk about their pain points, you want to talk about how your product or service can help them overcome that. And you'll find that those customers probably live on different platforms naturally, and you probably want to scope those out. That said, these days we're actually quite fortunate in the sense that we have all kinds of tools that will let us stream to various places at the same time, which can be incredibly useful. So if you were to go live, often the easiest, and though possibly my least favorite way of going live, is just to pick up your phone and press a few buttons. So this is something you can certainly do on Instagram, for example. I believe it's something you can do on YouTube if you have a certain number of subscribers. It is just a matter of sort of positioning a phone, pressing the live button. It often, and I guess even TikTok does this as well, again, if you've got the subscribers to unlock that functionality. So the thing about going live on a phone is, there are a few different things. First of all, you've got to think about, how you're actually physically connected. Well, probably not physically connected, but actually connected to the internet. A lot of this stuff will probably happen via Wi-Fi, which really depends on the quality of your Wi-Fi as to the quality of the experience that your viewers may be having. For this reason, I don't love wireless anything. I use a wireless mouse and a wireless keyboard, but otherwise, I try to avoid the wireless technology because I'm always a little bit nervous. I always feel a bit better about actually having something physically connected. Hello to Ender Trading, who's saying hello from Vietnam today. So great to have your company. Hope the traveling's going well. I know you're all over the world all of the time, so hope that's going well for you. So again, often the other thing too about going live on the phone, depending on your destination, the comments may or may not be retained. You often spend a lot of time actually reading the comments from your phone, so you've got to think about where it's positioned in relationship to the camera and you. And it's funny, when phone streaming first became a thing, it was pretty common to see a lot of influencers have these little tripods that would actually have two cameras, two phones, and one would have the camera facing at them and the other one would be showing the screen. And essentially this was the ability to actually read the comments and use the better camera on the phone at the same time. So those are a couple of things that you can do. I I I don't love the audio I get out of my phone by default, and I do have a number of different microphones that I can use to connect to my phone if I really wanted to. But again, on the Android ecosystem, I really need specific apps that will acknowledge an external microphone, and they don't always do that. And a lot of the times, if it's using the default camera functionality, I can't override that. It's always going to default to the inbuilt microphone, which is okay sometimes. Like, you know, it's not completely awful, but I don't enjoy listening to it myself, so that's why I try to avoid it. Um, but yeah, I'm really curious because I know like Sam Proof, my former co-host, he would do stuff on the phone from time to time. He sort of spoke. Speaking of which, I literally just mentioned him and he showed up in the comments. That's a bit spooky. Hey John, hey gang, right Sam. So I'm really curious. Like, do any of you have much experience actually streaming from a phone? Because I know a lot of people recommend it as a starting point. I didn't love it. And I very rarely do it. So you know, I acknowledge that it's there, and you can do it if you want to. But I've never really had a lot of joy there. So once we sort of move from our phone, the next yes, magic, absolutely. He's lurking and commenting and waiting for a piece of software to load. I think I saw a tweet earlier. Anyway, this is Alone Live Streaming Live. I'm John Lacey. This is a very impromptu show today. Yeah, okay. So Business Growth Ready writes Blackmagic camera app to use an external microphone. I think that's still only Apple iOS devices only. I would love that to. Let me look it up in real time. I could be wrong. But I think it's iOS only. Let me just have a look. Oh, actually, no. No, it looks like it is on the Google Store, but I think the last time I tried, yeah, so last time I tried installing this, it just says this app is not available for your device. So I'm curious, I'd have to check out what kind of apps, what kind of phones specifically use that. But I mean, I do have some workarounds for recorded video. Somebody actually reached out to me with their app. I think he was like a CEO of his company, and he reached out with this mobile streaming app that kind of did give you video switching and loading pre-recorded videos and stuff. And I tried it for a little while. I didn't love it. I never heard from him again, so I don't know what that was about, but yeah. And Sam writes, I do have a couple of external mics for the phone, but they're not amazing. I'd love the ability to plug my Zoom H6 in, but that would make the mobility of it harder unless I build a rig. And I must admit, I love my rig, and I haven't really used it anywhere. It's funny because I've had these wireless micro things from Rode for a while, and they're actually really good. But I also bought like a $20 wireless mic set from Kmart in Australia. And I wanted to do a comparison, but I was just like, you don't need a comparison. If you use these cheapo mics for 5 seconds, you realize they're really not great. And I don't have them handy, or otherwise I probably would show you. But it is, yeah, it's just, I mean, I think, like, especially if you're in the moment, if you're capturing something newsworthy, it can be really useful to just turn on the camera and document it. It's not usually the use case that I personally have, but it can be an option for you. So that's definitely worth checking out. So yes, the Blackmagic camera available on iOS and Android devices, but again, it depends on the Android device specifically. So you might want to check that out. It's funny, I feel like I'm probably covering pretty newbie stuff today, and I know the people in my audience aren't newbies. So, I mean, I'm happy for you to take this conversation in any direction you want, but I think the next thing, and I guess this is the thing that most people I see on LinkedIn are always looking for. They're always looking for something that's really simple, that can just bring in a guest and you can have a side-by-side conversation and potentially manage the comments. And for that purpose, generally speaking, I think these browser-based applications are really quite useful. We've got things like Restream. So I'm actually using Restream for this stream, although I am going out of OBS. I'm not using their studio. Um, in fact, let me just see if I can show you a little bit more about the studio. Okay, this is only documentation, so it doesn't look like it's got any pretty pictures to show you. And yes, that's not even relevant. But essentially, like all this is a browser-based operation where you can have multiple guests. They have a whole bunch of sort of pre-built scenes that you can play with. You can switch between them. It's all pretty standard stuff. I just, yeah. And again, I probably need to make a video about this because I can't really do it live because of the inception of it all. Unless I could potentially, yeah, there are things I could do, but I'm not really prepared today. But anyway, let's not dwell on that too much. One stream live is another option. I should say too that both Restream and One Stream Live, I think, give you the RTMP streaming. So yeah, I mean, literally just set it on the screen there behind me. So this is great if you want to come from a different app like OBS and Meld Studio and those kinds of things, and it will potentially stream these out to all kinds of different destinations. And they've also got sort of that browser-based studio as well. So it's something you can start with and potentially grow into, which can be quite useful. The other thing too is Streamlabs. So Streamlabs has a whole bunch of products, and in fact, if we check out the Ultra tab, it gives you all kinds of wonderful things. So Streamlabs Desktop Plus. So Streamlabs Desktop is essentially their version of OBS Studio, and I mean that quite literally. They forked the code of OBS Studio, and they pared some things back. They restricted things, and I think they make it a little bit easier, but you do have less control, and obviously I'm a control freak, so it doesn't give me a lot of joy. But they've got the Desktop Plus, the Mobile Plus. There are actually apps in here to make clips and do podcast editing and video editing and all kinds of stuff. But they also have their Talk Studio Pro. This used to be an app called Melon, and then it was bought by Streamlabs, and they've rebranded. But again, this is very much that same sort of browser-based experience. And a lot of people, this is what they want. And you have a lot less control, but I think it's a lot easier. And even in my last stream, you know, I sort of spoke about how people are scared of OBS. And somebody in the audience was like, yes, that's right. OBS is big and scary, and I don't want to have anything to do with it. And which makes me a little sad, because it's my favorite thing in the world. But again, people just aren't ready for it. And I think if all you want is, you know, those two cameras talking to each other and the guest and maybe, you know, a little bit of text, any of these browser-based options will get you there. And I think, you know, start where you want to start. I think it's all good. So you can go live for free in 5 clicks. So the other slightly confusing thing about this, I suppose, is that you can subscribe to their whole Ultra package for a certain amount per month, and I think, I don't know if it's going to tell me how much it is. Oh, here we go. So there is a free starter version, so you can definitely go in and play with that, and then monthly from $27 per month or $189 per year, which I think is probably fairly reasonable. I just don't know if I would personally use all these features because I have different ways of working. But you know, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. And I should say too, there are probably hundreds of apps that I won't cover today because I just don't know that they exist. But again, a lot of these things, they all do the same stuff. And unless you have a really specific use case which isn't being met by one of these, I'm sure any of them would be fine. The one that we used to recommend, and I say we, as in Sam and myself, was, I can't even think of the name of it now anymore, StreamYard, and which was really good software. It really was a really good software. It was a great company. Unfortunately, it has been purchased by a larger company, which have a reputation of just buying things and drilling them into the ground until they're no longer useful and just increasing the price and cutting the workforce. So I can't in good conscience recommend that anymore. Yes, yep, StreamYard. And it genuinely makes me sad because it was a company that had so much heart. It did so much community outreach. It was really quite wonderful. And it just got purchased and taken out of their hands. And I'm hearing a lot of stories about it being much less reliable than it used to be, which I personally can't vouch for because I haven't really touched it in months. But the other thing, like a week ago, they sent out all these emails about 40% off and 50% off, and I thought, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But thank you. So yeah, there are all kinds of versions of these. For my money, actually, I can't. Even though there are things in Restream Studio that I don't love, I think it still probably would be my recommendation. And for me, I use Restream. I'm using Restream right now to take my OBS signal and to send it off to Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And that's just really to take the bandwidth burden off of me and to put it on Restream because they're a better place to do that. And it also lets me combine the comments together, so that makes my life a little bit easier as well. All right, so this is Learn Live Streaming Live. My name's John Lacey. Today we're talking about all the different ways that we can go live and why live streaming might be useful to you. Whether you're a person, an individual doing a bit of personal branding, or perhaps somebody who's running a business and has products and services to sell. I'm going to touch very briefly on a lot of these different methods. And again, I'm happy for us to take this conversation anywhere it needs to go. I've been really, really tired of late, and I almost didn't go live today, but I just missed hanging out with you guys so much, so I just wanted to do it. So once, we've looked at sort of potentially going live from your mobile phone, using one of these browser-based options, which again, I think is probably the sweet spot for people who aren't super techie, for people that just want 2 cameras and some comments. I think that really is a great way of being and working. But if you do want to get a little bit more technical, and I do, and I know many of you do as well, that's when we go to some of these pieces of software that can let us do a lot more. And I think that there are trade-offs in all things in life, and I think the trade-off here is ease of use versus the complexity of the things that you can achieve. And I guess the first option here for me is OBS Studio, which is the thing that I use all the time and I really love. It is available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and it is completely free. So in some ways, the thing you'll be paying for is just learning this software and sort of getting comfortable with using it. But I know a lot of people, if you are in that camp where you really just want that browser-based side-by-side thing, then, maybe don't start here. But this does actually have other opportunities, I suppose, that we can explore in a second. So this is free and open source software, so you won't be paying anything for it. It's got a bunch of corporate sponsors as well, which is kind of the thing that makes it happen. And it's, it does take a little bit to learn, but I just love it. And I really enjoy the fact that I'm not paying $50 per month to use this in the way that I know some of my colleagues are using other pieces of software. And some of the things that make this really powerful is that there is a whole community of developers that are building things to extend its functionality. So if we check out the forum, for example, this is often a place where you can get support as well, but they do have a whole plugin section. And there are all kinds of plugins that you can do all kinds of amazing things with, some of which we've covered on various shows, and some of which we haven't really played with yet. The Elgato Marketplace Connect is something I really need to explore. I just haven't had the chance to do it yet. The great thing about that is that we can sort of package up our scene collections and make them available for other people through Elgato's Marketplace, and that's the same marketplace where you get your Stream Deck plugins, for example. So there are all kinds of wonderful things in here. The Advanced Scene Switcher, which Sam covered a couple of weeks ago. The Move plugin, which is my favorite, and that's kind of, when I press this button and I get bigger, or when I press this button and I get smaller, it's actually the same scene. It's just rearranging a few things and, changing where I am in the frame and then showing my screen capture as well. There's all kinds of really, really awesome stuff. The Atom stuff. I, I, actually joined somebody's stream during the week, and they had a guest on from a company that sells a paid subscription product. And I'm sure you can guess which one it is. I don't like to spend too much time in those spaces because I don't really feel welcome. And there was, more than one or two swipes at OBS. But the thing that really struck me was that, somebody mentioned vertical and horizontal streaming and recording at the same time. And this person who had talked so much smack about OBS said, "Oh, that's coming soon." And I'm like, that's something we can already do for free in OBS Studio. That's something with the Atom Vertical plugin. I think there are other plugins that do it as well, but Atom is the one I like using. And we can do it in Meld Studio as well. And that doesn't require a plugin. That's kind of built-in functionality. But again, doesn't cost you anything. And the idea that people are like, "Oh, my $50 per month software is better than your free software," and it can't do the most basic things. It hurts my brain to think about, honestly. And I tried to be really nice. I tried to be really diplomatic in that space, but it is weird. So, I mean, we've got all kinds of things. We can do all kinds of stuff with OBS. I've produced so much content about OBS, and I will in the future as well. But the other thing I do want to draw your attention to, because I think in some ways, Meld Studio it's the new kid on the block, and I think in some ways it kind of is a good compromise between the browser-based and OBS, because it does attempt to simplify a number of things about OBS. Enda has some sense of what I'm talking about, and I won't put that comment up, but yes, you know what I'm talking about. And that company, like, they do a lot of community building. I'm told they have a very generous affiliate program too. So there is that reinforcing aspect of that. But yes, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm referring to. All right, so back to Meld Studio. I think this is a really great compromise between the complexity of OBS and sort of the browser-based version. Although, again, I think this is... I don't know that they have any guest functionality built in just yet. But you can use other tools like Video Ninja and what's the other one? Ping.gg. So you can actually use those and just bring in some browser sources to bring those together. But again, this is another great example of something that lets you do the horizontal and vertical in real time together. It's quite simple. I might even see if I can get Meld Studio going in a little bit, and we can have a look at it together. It does little things that, like it does rounded corners, and I know for some of us that's not a big deal, but some people are really enamored with those kinds of features, and it makes this pretty easy. So you can just specify the size of the rounded corners. You can have all four rounded, or you can just have one or two or three. You can go to different destinations, and you can do the horizontal and vertical streaming together as well. So I guess, and this is the part at which I start getting really technical and people's brains explode, but the great thing about Meld Studio and OBS Studio is they both have this feature called Virtual Camera. And the virtual camera lets you, set up anything you want in this section here. And then you press a magical button in either pieces of the software, and it'll make those visuals available to other pieces of software like Zoom and Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and that kind of thing. And that in and of itself is really cool. So you could potentially have all your cool stuff in your webcam frame and still go back and use Restream Studio or OneStream Live. And that's sort of another compromise between those two things. So yeah, I must admit I was a little skeptical of Meld when it first came out. And I think, again, it's just because I'm a control freak. I just need to control all of the things. And there are some things that I just can't do in Meld that I would like to do in Meld. And who knows? It's likely to evolve over time. So I guess we'll just wait and see. But, if we go and have a look at Meld, I'll just open it up in the background. The other thing that is a little confusing about Meld is that it's technically a web app. And you'll see, like, every time I sort of open it up, it'll often be downloading updates. And this is weird because this is actually the first time it's asked me if it wants to update, because normally it just does its thing automatically. But we'll press the update. We'll let this do its thing in the background. The main reason I mention this is if this is the tool that you want to use to stream or record or use as a virtual camera, just make sure you open it up ahead of time. Don't, if you're streaming at 9 o'clock, don't open it at 9:58 because there's a really good chance that you won't be able to use it at 9. So, I'd open it 15, 20 minutes beforehand and just make sure that you've updated all the various things that need updating. That's not something you'll need to worry about in OBS. OBS often will have updates, but it'll ask you if you want to run them or ignore them. Oh, okay, that's fun. So I've opened Meld, and it appears to have completely messed up with my camera in OBS, which is delightful. What I might do, and the reason for this, I suppose, is essentially that I'm using my camera in both apps. So I might even, I'm just going to remove all the references to my cam link. And I should do this on the screen, you can actually see, but just give me a second and I'll bring that over. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I know it's joyful, Sam. I'm going to open up studio mode in OBS. I'm going to go in and just turn off my camera and bring it back on. So I'll deactivate it and it's gone. And there I am again. Brilliant. Okay. All right. And I'll turn that studio camera off. All right. Hopefully that's working again. Let me know in the comments. So the great thing about this, and I'm just going to talk you through the process of this, and I'm just going to go back to here. So generally by default, you get this horizontal scene. If you want to do vertical as well, go up to the file menu, go to preferences, and just between in this general preferences section, instead of main canvas, we want multi-canvas. And it's going to keep doing that to me for reasons I'll show you in a second. So back in glorious Technicolor, I know it's delightful. So what we can do, and I need to, because I've still got this cam link over here. Actually, I wonder if I click on this, can I change this? No, I don't think I can. All right. No worries, let's delete this. And I want to just make sure I'm deleting this in all the various scenes. And we'll get rid of the Technicolor in a second. I don't think I'm anywhere else. All right, cool. Let me just do this really, really quickly. And this is just the joy of going live and playing with multiple bits of software. Again, if you're a normal person, you wouldn't try using your camera in several different places at once. You would just do it normally. All right. Okay. So now we've essentially got our two canvases in Meld Studio. The way that actually this is different to OBS and the HM Vertical plugin is you'll actually get different dialog boxes, different docs that'll be for horizontal scenes and horizontal sources and vertical scenes and vertical sources. Whereas here we've only got the scenes and the layers. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky and you need to be quite mindful about this. So whichever canvas you've clicked in last is what you'll be seeing over here. So if I click over here, I'm seeing the horizontal scenes and I'm seeing the horizontal layers. Whereas if I come over here, I will start seeing the vertical ones. So wherever you click last is what you're editing. And you do really need to be quite mindful about that. So I'm actually going to go in here. I'm going to add a video device. I'm going to select my video device. I'm actually going to go with the OBS virtual camera, although I haven't turned it on. So I'm going to do that now. Start virtual camera. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this from my, oh, actually it is still that, isn't it? John only. We'll try that one. There we go. So now I've got myself there, and I could I could resize this and move it into a different place. I could do all of the fun things. But again, if I wanted this over here in the horizontal version, essentially I've got to come in and add it again. We want the OBS virtual camera. And, resize it. Do all the wonderful things that you want to do with it. And essentially, like, the thing about this too is that these scenes, again, I should probably have OBS open to show you how this compares to the ATEM, but I suspect a lot of people in the chat already know about this. But in the ATEM version, you create the horizontal scenes, you create the vertical scenes, and they could have the same sources, they could have different sources, that's entirely up to you. But then what you do is you actually come into the scenes, the vertical scenes, and you link them to horizontal scenes. And that way, when you move between horizontal scenes, the vertical scenes will switch as well. You don't need to do that in Meld. For every scene that's created, it'll essentially be created in both of these two places. So, I don't have the camera on this one, for example, but I could sort of do things with that. And it all happens relatively quickly. You could potentially go in and change the transition effect if that's a thing. I mean, obviously that's a thing in OBS. I think it's a little bit different in Meld. In fact, I think transition. So as far as I know, and this may have changed, but the last time I looked at it, you basically get a single transition for every scene, and it can be cut, fade, morph, or move. Again, the move is very much like the OBS plugin. If you duplicate a scene and rearrange things and then switch between them, the computer will just move things for you, which is pretty cool. We can also set up sort of hotkeys to move stuff around. Both OBS Studio and Meld Studio have Stream Deck plugins, so you can download those and then you can switch between different things, which is really quite nifty. All right, so this is Learn Live Streaming Live. Hope you're enjoying the show. I guess I can't do that there, so I'm going to go back here and try this again. Oh, okay. I left... I had studio mode on. I forgot that I had studio mode on. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe, he says, pressing the button for the third time, and it still isn't working. All right. I'm going to have to check that out later. Normally, I should have a lovely animation there, but it's not doing its thing today, but that's okay. All right. So, we've got these tools, and I guess the other one that I kind of probably do need to mention is Streamlabs Desktop. So, again, it's very OBS-like because it started as OBS. It literally uses the same code base, or it did originally. So if we go to Streamlabs and we go to desktop, this actually is kind of free. So if you prefer working with this version, you can just download it and go for free. I think there are additional features if you purchase the Ultra subscription. And in some ways, this tries to simplify a lot of OBS stuff. And again, you might love it, you might hate it. It's kind of up to you. But again, it looks like it also includes horizontal and vertical options. So this is a thing that definitely exists in a lot of software. So if yours doesn't, you might want to think about that if that's important to you. They do also have their collab cam. So this is kind of a thing where you can bring also other guests in quite easily. And you can brand it, and you can use a lot of their templates and do whatever you need to do. Custom alerts, I don't really have much use case for custom alerts, but they are a thing that does exist, and if you're on particular platforms, they might be relevant. And widgets and a cloud bot. So it's a free chatbot that provides entertainment and moderation. That is interesting. All right, so we can do all kinds of stuff there. Again, I think I'm probably going to have that same problem with any second piece of software I open is going to ruin my camera. But I'm going to give it a go because I imagine I have Streamlabs desktop on my computer. Maybe I don't. Oh, it doesn't look like I do. Okay. What I might do, let's just scroll up to the top. I'm going to download this and we'll give it a go. There are, and again, I should say, like, there are a number of little things that kind of annoyed me about this the last time I tried to use it. So I'm OBS faithful. I'm probably not going to change anytime soon, but I just want you to be aware of the different options that you have out there in case you want to do something a little bit different. All right, so I'll wait for that to load. I am curious though, if you are currently doing any kind of live, what does your process look like? What software are you using? I know a lot of different people use a lot of different things. And in some ways, like I don't have a dog in this race as much as I say I love OBS. It's not like I'm getting an affiliate commission from telling people to use OBS because it's literally free. So you can take that or leave it. That's entirely up to you. But I am sort of curious if you are doing any live or even pre-recorded material. What does your content creation stack look like in that regard? That would be really interesting to know. So let me know in the chat. It's sort of curious doing this in real time because I find out how slow my internet is at actually downloading things, but that's all right. It's nearly here. And I think, getting back to that person last week, and I don't like, I genuinely, I don't want to pick on them. I can't, I understand where they're coming from because OBS does come with a lot of moving parts. And in some ways that can be really useful and wonderful. And in other ways that can be just completely overwhelming. So, whatever works for you is probably the thing that's going to work for you, obviously. It's a bit redundant for me to say it like that, but it is what it is. And I'm just installing Streamlabs desktop in the background. So hopefully that'll be there in a second. But let's just wait for that to do its thing. And it also needs to install Microsoft Visual C++ stuff as well, which is always joyful. All right, so Business Growth Ready writes, he uses a mix of OBS, Ecamm, and Camtasia. Yeah, I used to use Camtasia a lot. I think I've kind of outgrown it, and I think we're like in a couple of months it'll come up for renewal, and I don't think I will renew it just because I'm absolutely loving working in DaVinci. And again, I think Camtasia is this really great example of it being the perfect tool for a certain demographic. Like, it really is aimed at sort of educators, and it has things that'll record your screen, record your camera, and it even has a bunch of templates that will automatically work around those now. So again, if you're not a video editor, but you want a semi-professional video put together in really quickly, that in itself can be really, really useful. They did kind of move from, because they tend to release a new version of Camtasia every year, and they have kind of explicitly moved to a yearly subscription model now. So depending on when you started, that is a little bit different. And I if I ever have the option, I do prefer to purchase software outright. But again, it might be a tool for you to explore if that's the kind of thing you're looking at. All right, so I've got Streamlabs desktop. It's asking me some questions. I'm going to say live streaming here. So it says, how do you plan to use Streamlabs desktop? It's asking me to sign up with a Streamlabs ID. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to start fresh. So interestingly, it lets you import from OBS Studio, import from Twitch Studio, or start fresh. I'm not sure, if you rely on a certain plugin, if it'll bring that in as well, but it's good to know it's there. But I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to quickly turn this to something else before it ruins everything. And of course it's ruined everything. But anyway, bear with me for a second and I will attempt to bring my camera back. All right, there we go. Turn off studio mode there. All right, so again, every time it tries to use that same that same camera, it's gonna freeze it in OBS, which is annoying, but it is what it is. Okay, so there's a visual preset option, so I can go grayscale. I don't know why I'd want to do that, but it's available. I can go sepia tone. I can go dramatic, which makes me look very bright. Flashback. Okay, so this could be fun, but I just genuinely don't know when one would actually use those things, but especially on every scene, like that would be so irritating. All right. And so essentially I can set my webcam, I can set my visual preset. Again, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with the default audio because I'm sure that's what it is. And add your first theme. So again, they've built out a whole bunch of themes. I imagine some of these are probably paid. Actually, this is probably for the software itself? No, this does seem to be like a scene collection in OBS. So, look, I'm gonna grab this one and I'm gonna install it. We'll see what it looks like in a second. So it's installing the overlay. And it's trying to upsell me on Ultra, but I'm going to go free. All right. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening here, and I'm already a little overwhelmed by the sheer number of tooltips it's giving me. So folder expansion, wondering how to expand your folders, just click on the folder icon. We'll close that one out. Scene collections, this is where your scene collections live. Clicking the title will do a drop-down menu where you can view and manage. And you can sort of log into Streamlabs to get more stuff over there. So I can create a new scene collection. I don't know that yeah, it's probably the only one I've got. Oh, is that different? Okay, that is different. So that starts from scratch. So again, like it's not, so we've got scenes and sources. It's quite similar in that sense. So again, if I come down here and I go, actually not there, I want to go do it over here, add a new source. These are arranged differently. There might actually be a few different ones in here. What I really want to do is I want to capture my camera, video capture, I presume it's this one. I'll go add source, and give it a name. And there we go. We've got that there. I can change the resolution. You know, these are all pretty common settings that you're probably used to seeing if you're in OBS. I want to come in and bring in some audio as well. So audio input capture, add source, and we'll just use the Rodecaster. Testing 1 2 3. Okay. So if I close that out now. Oh, okay, it's down here. So I've already, this is something that I have an issue with for OBS and Streamlabs is that they give us these desktop audio and mic auxiliary options here. I don't like using these. I'm going to, I don't know if I can hide it or mute it. I'm going to remove it. Yep, cool. So, and the reason I do that is because the thing about desktop audio is that if you capture your desktop audio indiscriminately, anything that you can hear will be captured. And especially if you've got YouTube, you know, if you've got one of your streaming destinations open and you hear yourself, then that's the quickest way to get to a really irritating echo. So I don't like to do that. In this case, my video capture device, because it is actually the OBS virtual camera, it doesn't have any audio associated with it anyway. But I can go in here and I can go to properties, global settings. Because I do recall that this was kind of one of the reasons this was kind of one of the reasons I didn't actually enjoy this was because one of my personal things is that I like to think in decibels when it comes to audio, and I don't really have the option to change that here. Like, it gives me a scale out of 100. I don't know if there's a setting in there to change that somewhere, but that's as loud as it's going to be. And then, I can bring that down, and it does actually tell me that that's 40 dB over here, which is useful to know. A lot of the times, if I have pre-recorded videos that have been normalized, I do need to bring them down to sort of negative 6 dB. But that's a thing. And I guess after that, we can just go into our settings, presumably. And we can look at streaming and multi-streaming options. So again, this is where you can add in your streaming options and your destinations, and you can go live. So again, perfectly fine software. Like, I think there probably are some things, like in terms of comment management, that I'd need to explore a little bit further, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that approach. Again, just try out the software that you want to play with and see where you end up. If you do come across anything new or novel in terms of this kind of software, let me know in the comments, because I think if you're just an individual putting out content, my recommendation generally is just find a tool that works for you and use it and learn it deeply. But if you are like an enthusiast and you just love playing with these tools, it's often really fun to just get stuck in and do your thing and see what you can do, see how you can break it, that sort of thing. Seeing as we do have a little bit of time, I might see if I can open up my my second version of OBS. And I'll just show you, like, I'll give you a sense of the OBS the Atom vertical plugin, which is the one I kind of like using. I believe there are others out there if you want to do multi-canvases. But this is the one I really enjoy using. So I'll give the computer a second to load that up. I have no idea what's actually happened with my lovely like and subscribe animation, but anyway, it is what it is. Okay, so let's go back over to our screen share. This is a version of OBS that I play with for demonstration purposes. It's already using this this virtual camera from the other version. But you'll see over here, I've got the vertical canvas. And this is essentially, in a similar way to Meld Studio, you essentially build out a horizontal version and a vertical version. But in this case, we do need to make sure, first of all, you've installed the plugin. So the Atom vertical plugin, which you can find at Atom TV, which is, so it's AITUM.TV. So, the initials T and V. Yep. So basically, once you've done that, you'll actually get a few extra docs that you can work with. So we have our vertical, which is literally that canvas, and that's already visible. But we also have vertical scenes. We also have vertical sources. And we even have vertical scene transitions. I'm not going to dwell on the scene transition too much, but it'll give you the ability to change what that looks like. So now, if I just, and I might just make these a little bit bigger so we can see them. So I can say, I can maybe rename this one and say vertical scene. Oh, okay. That's what it was called, evidently. And I can come in and I can sort of recreate this. And the thing about this is we've got the video capture device. You'll see that there's an option for a new one, but there's also the OBS virtual camera. So any source you've already used in horizontal should come in this drop-down area. And you can bring that there and you can reposition it. I don't really, like, it's been a long time since I played with this, but again, I probably want to bring in my audio capture for this because I can record this separately. Bring in my Rodecaster. And, I probably have things like, and this is the point at which I've got to remember how I created this. I think it's just text. Okay, cool. In fact, what I don't think this will work, but I'm really curious to just give it a go. I just want to see if I can just copy. I probably can't. All right, so I'm going to bring in... Anyway, I won't try and do them all together, but let's just see if I can drag in one of them. No, that doesn't work. Okay, so I do actually need to recreate some of this stuff. So SVG, that's my logo, and I can jig where that goes, and I can bring in my text, text GDI plus, so headline and scrolling headline. And like there are color sources and stuff that I could bring in as well, but to be really honest with you, I think because there'd be different dimensions, I'd probably just recreate those. So essentially we can change where this stuff goes. So maybe I have my scrolling text down here, maybe I have my headline here. Maybe I actually do want my logo maybe in the top right hand corner. Like you can do whatever you like, but the thing is, we can create all these different scenes. Just make sure you keep your audio in all the relevant ones. And what you can do now is that we can actually... I'm going to create another vertical scene really quickly, and I will just call this one music. I don't know why. It seems to be glitching when I try to change the... create a new scene. Oh. All right, I might just, I'll leave it as the default. But now what I can do is I can actually match these up. So if I right click in my vertical scenes and I pick what we call link scenes, and I'll say when I'm on horizontal music, I want to switch to that one. And when I'm on just the one called scene, I want to go back to that one. So now if I click between these, you'll see that both of them change and they go together. And you can set up the keyboard shortcuts. You can set up the Stream Deck buttons to make that happen, but it's really, really useful. And you can actually come in here to the settings for the vertical. You can actually tell this to stream in different places. I've actually installed the Atom multi-stream plugin here, so it's telling me that the options here are disabled and I need to go check them out elsewhere, which is fine. But generally speaking, you could come in and actually set those up here. We can also say, you know, are we recording this as well? If so, where should it go? My favorite setting in all of this one is, I think it's in the general options from memory. No, maybe I'm wrong. Recording. Yes, so in recording, start and stop recording when main OBS starts and stops recording. I think that's amazing because the great thing about this is you can do your stream in real time. You can get to the end of it. You'll have a vertical version and a horizontal version. You could just grab this vertical version, throw it into whatever video editing software you're using, just cut it up into short clips and you're ready to go. So that in and of itself can save you a lot of time. Whereas often if you've got a horizontal video and you're trying to sort of figure out, like, do I stretch it out? Do I move this over here in the video editing software? A lot of that stuff is kind of taken care for you ahead of time if you have this vertical version. So, yeah, you know, those are just some things that you can play with. And again, I appreciate this is not for the people that want to use the browser-based studio tools. This is probably a little bit more complicated. But again, that's just how we play in this space. These are the tools that I love playing with, and I hope you know, if this is relevant to you, I hope you sort of play with it and explore it a little bit, because I think that would be really, really cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I realize the timing's been a little bit different this week, and the format's been a little bit looser as well. I'm really hoping I can get back into the swing of doing this properly very soon, but there's just so much going on in my life that I need to manage. But thank you so much for being here. Hopefully I'll be back roughly the same time next week. But if you do have anything, especially anything OBS related, that you would like me to cover in the future, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to do some shows about OBS very, very soon. A part of me feels like I've shown... I personally feel like I only maybe use 15 things in OBS, and I've just told people about them over and over again, and I'm kind of tired of repeating myself. But if there is something that you're interested in, let me know, because I really am looking for OBS related topics specifically. But have a great week. Have a great weekend when you get there. And I'll talk to you again very, very soon.